You know, he does other stuff. Hans does other stuff, like this one. I can't believe the first Hans Zimmer soundtrack that I'm going to review is The Holiday. Welcome to Popcorn and Vinyl, the show dedicated to films, film scores, and vinyl. And on today's episode, we're talking about The Holiday by Hans Zimmer. Now, even though the movie itself is a Christmas movie, the music itself isn't overly Christmassy. If it wasn't a Christmas movie, there's no way that I would see it as many times as I have. Now, this is one that's kind of in my regular rotation every year that my wife and I watch all the time around the holidays and Christmas time. And I decided if I ever became a filmmaker, I would make a Christmas movie because it gives you kind of more of a chance for people watching it just because people want to watch a holiday movie around the holidays. But I digress. The Holiday. I love this movie. You know, this isn't exactly an Oscar contender, but it's just a feel-good watch every once in a while or once a year around the holidays. Directed by Nancy Meyers, this is the story of, two women that get into some bad situations in relationships and just want to escape from their lives and go on a holiday and trade homes during the holiday season. While trading homes, they end up forging relationships with people in their new environment. All four characters have some kind of issue or are sort of damaged in some way by prior relationships, although I'll give Graham a pass since he is a widower, but the rest, are dealing with some issues throughout the film. But overall, it's just a wonderful story of these characters kind of coming together and really find what they're looking for in love and kind of discovering themselves along the way. And the best part of this movie is the score by Hans Zimmer. I constantly tell people that this is a hidden gem of Hans Zimmer's. It's not exactly like his other work. A lot of people associate him with big action movies like Pirates of the Caribbean, Gladiator, or Inception. But he does have a lot of these other films where he gets to explore kind of a different flavor in his musical style. Now, if I had to, I can describe this album, this soundtrack, in one word: delightful. It's fun and it's pleasant, but it's also emotionally weighty when it needs to be. What I really like is this is very much a different palette than Hans Zimmer normally uses. And you can just tell that he had fun with this one. And one thing that he has said in his master class, when it comes to scoring, it all comes down to story. And you could totally see that in this score. I think you could watch this in a foreign language and without hearing the dialogue, you know exactly what's happening. Between the performances of the characters and the actors, which is fantastic, and the music, you get the entire kind of emotional journey of these characters without even needing to understand the dialogue. It's all there in the music and really reflected in those characters. As a film score fan, I really love the scene where they're in the video store and Miles is talking about each of the movies and the different scores, and he even calls out Hans Zimmer for one of them. But it's just a really fun scene for a score fan because you know exactly what he's talking about. And it's interesting because that now actually makes that film a period piece because you can't really see a video store anymore. And after seeing that scene, I'm pretty sure I kind of played that game with a friend one time and started singing in a Blockbuster video, but that's just the kind of cool guy that I am. One track that might stand out is called For Nancy, and you might think, well, there's no character named Nancy, but that's actually because the director, Nancy Meyers, requested that specific, bossa nova, samba style feel in that particular scene as Graham and Amanda are falling in love. So Hans Zimmer did a little tribute to her and named the track For Nancy. Throughout the film, he has a little bit of fun with some light piano and guitar, and there's a bit of a nice jazzy feel throughout the film. But then again, we do get that emotional, weighty element so that we really feel what those characters are going through. And what I think Hans does so great is he captures those different flavors of love throughout the film. In that very first scene where we have Miles actually scoring a film, you get that elegant, sweeping romance. Moving along to Iris and Jasper, where you get that soul-crushing heartbreak from Jasper being such a horrible person to Iris, and you really feel the weight of her character there in that moment. And then moving along between Graham and Amanda as they kind of get to know each other and flirt, you really get that kind of butterflies in your stomach, fun, exciting love feel, in the score as their relationship begins to develop. And then that all kind of crescendos at the end with that moment of realization of Amanda falling in love with Graham at the very end. And I love that end scene. The music there is so wonderful. You know, it's a slow build as Amanda's having that realization. You know, she turns the car around, runs back, and I love that that scene kind of takes its time, and then you just get that full expression of that main love theme, and then as she makes it to the house again, it slows down, and we just get a nice slow piano and a nice emotional moment right at the end. In my experience listening to this soundtrack, it's kind of a lot like Christmas, where it's happening and it's all exciting, and then it just kind of ends, and you're left with like, well, now I have to wait again. Throughout the film, we're treated to a number of these really nice moments, you know, with Arthur accepting his award, and we get that great gumption track, with Amanda meeting Graham's kids, where we just have this, again, this beautiful little scene where a kind of new family is formed, and, you know, he has the most adorable little girls, and if I could, I'm thinking maybe I'll send my kids away to a boarding school in England, just so they could have cute little British accents, because that seems lovely. In the end, it's a heartwarming, light film that's great to watch every single year. And it does have a great score that is awesome to listen to any time of year. It's, like I said, it's not overly Christmassy, it just is light and fun and jazzy. This is a soundtrack I never expected to be released on vinyl, and when I saw it was, I was delighted, because I love listening to this soundtrack. It's one I could put on every time, and I could just envision myself, you know, it's winter, I'm having a hot coffee, and I just put this on the turntable, and it's just a kind of a feel-good soundtrack to listen to. The handling of the release was very nice. It comes on a nice little snow white vinyl pressing. The artwork is just kind of the standard promotional imagery that they use probably in their posters and probably even CD soundtrack release. But it is what it needs to be, and it works very nicely. One thing that I liked in the liner notes is that it had who some of the co-collaborators were on each of the tracks. So we saw names, you know, like Lorne Balfe or Henry Jackman, ones that, again, composers that are more associated with action scores. You know, Henry Jackman did probably the best Marvel score with The Winter Soldier. He's done X-Men First Class, which probably is my favorite X-Men score. And then Lorne Balfe, who recently did Mission Impossible 4. So these are like hardcore kind of like action composers, or at least that's kind of what we know their work as. So it's great to see some of the tracks that they contributed that you probably wouldn't expect that they were a part of. So in the end, this is a very enjoyable album, and I highly recommend it. Even, you know, aside from Christmas time, it's a great one to throw on any time of year, just because it's a fun, light score to listen to, but it does veer into some, you know, some emotional direction, so you're not just listening to some restaurant music the whole time. If you hadn't heard the score, I would recommend giving it a try. You know, it's a little bit different than other Hans Zimmer work you might be familiar with. It's just a fun listen. That being said, thank you very much for watching this episode of Popcorn and Vinyl. We will see you next time.